Good afternoon, everyone. This is the news with b.c.begley. I am your host, and it's Monday, October the 6th, 2025. And here are your top news stories for today. U.S. President Donald Trump redeployed 200 California National Guard troops from Los Angeles to Portland, Oregon, after a court had blocked his initial attempt to send troops there. The move bypassed a judge's order and sparked outrage from California Governor Gavin Newsom, who called it a, quote, breathtaking abuse of power, and then vowed to sue. The White House defended the action, saying it was necessary to protect federal property and personnel during violent protest. Critics, including Newsom and other Democratic leaders, accused President Trump of using the military as a political weapon against American citizens, the BBC has reported. The deployment followed similar actions in cities like Chicago, which is part of President Trump's broader crackdown on crime and illegal immigration-related unrest. President Donald Trump said on Sunday that negotiations to implement his plan for releasing all remaining hostages held by Hamas and ending the Gaza war could be completed within days. U.S. officials say that President Trump and his team are pressing both Israel and Hamas to move quickly, calling the deal, quote, a great one for Israel and the Arab world. Talks in Egypt are set to finalize logistical details, including the scope of Israel's initial withdrawal and the list of Palestinian prisoners set to be freed. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said 90% of the agreement is already complete, and warned that delays could jeopardize the entire deal, Axios has reported. The White House expects Trump envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner to join the Cairo talks this week as the administration pushes for a resolution and reaffirms support for a two-state solution under strict security conditions. Federal agents shot a woman Saturday morning in Chicago's Brighton Park neighborhood after being boxed in by multiple vehicles, according to the Department of Homeland Security. Agents said they opened fire when one driver, later identified as 40-year-old Maramar Martinez, allegedly pointed a semi-automatic weapon at them. Martinez, who was wounded and then later released from the hospital, faces federal charges for assaulting law enforcement officers, along with another suspect, 21-year-old Anthony Ian Santos Ruiz. DHS said several officers were injured, vehicles were damaged, and special operations teams were deployed to restore order, CBS News has reported. The shooting sparked large protest marked by clashes between agents and demonstrators, while Chicago police said that they only assisted with safety and traffic control as federal authorities led the investigation. At least 14 people were shot, including 2 who were killed late Saturday night near downtown Montgomery, Alabama, police have said. The victims include several teenagers, with 7 under the age of 17. The 2 fatalities were identified as a 17-year-old and a 43-year-old. Police believe the gunfire began after a targeted individual returned fire, sparking chaos as others in the crowd also opened fire. 5 victims remain hospitalized with life-threatening injuries, and no arrests have been made, ABC News has reported. Montgomery's mayor called the incident a preventable dispute and announced a $50,000 reward for information leading to the shooter's capture. U.S. forces carried out another strike on a vessel allegedly carrying illegal drugs off Venezuela's coast, President Donald Trump announced on Sunday, warning that drug traffickers may soon face action on land. Speaking at Naval Station Norfolk, Trump praised the Navy for targeting what he called cartel terrorists, claiming the latest attack was part of a broader campaign to stop drug smuggling. The strike, the 4th or 5th in recent weeks, reportedly killed 4 people, though U.S. claims that the targets were drug traffickers have not been independently verified. Russia condemned the attacks as a dangerous escalation and then pledged support for Venezuela, while the U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth insisted he had full authorization for the operations, Al Jazeera has reported. Trump said the military buildup in the Caribbean has, quote, stopped drugs from coming in, and suggested a Phase 2 could soon target operations on land. 5 people, including 4 members of just one family, were all killed and tens of thousands left without power in Ukraine after massive overnight Russian missile and drone attacks, President Vladimir Zelensky has said. The strikes, which targeted multiple regions including Lviv, Zaporizhia, and Odessa, involved more than 50 missiles and nearly 500 drones, this according to Ukrainian officials. Lviv suffered its largest assault since the war began, prompting widespread blackouts and suspension of public transport. Poland and NATO scrambled fighter jets as some attacks near Polish airspace, while Russia claimed it struck Ukrainian military and infrastructure sites, the BBC has reported. Zelensky called for stronger air defenses and faster delivery of international aid, saying Ukraine must end Russia's, quote, aerial terror before winter intensifies. Syria has completed voting in its first parliamentary elections since the fall of the Assad regime, marking what officials called a key step in the nation's political transition. Counting continued late on Sunday with the final results expected today as early tallies showed no women winning seats so far, meaning President Ahmed al-Sharaa is likely to use his appointment powers to meet the 20% female quota. The vote fills 210 seats under a new system where 2/3 are elected and 1/3 appointed by the president. Elections were postponed in parts of Raqqa and other cities due to security and logistical issues, as those areas still remain outside of the government control, CNN has reported. The new parliament's main task will be drafting a constitution and preparing for direct elections, though analysts question its representatives given the exclusion of Kurdish, Druze, and other minority regions. A Boston police cruiser was destroyed early Sunday morning during what authorities called a, quote, large-scale vehicle takeover involving more than 100 people near Mass Avenue and Tremont Street. Police said the crowd used fireworks, cones, and poles to attack cruisers and block traffic, with one cruiser catching on fire after being repeatedly hit with fireworks. The Boston Fire Department extinguished the blaze, but the vehicle was totaled. 2 Rhode Island men, an 18-year-old and a 19-year-old, were arrested and face multiple charges, including assaulting a police officer and property destruction, CBS News has reported. A similar takeover was reported in Randolph about 45 minutes earlier, and officials are investigating whether the incidents are connected. A 41-year-old New Jersey man was arrested early on Sunday outside St. Matthew's Cathedral in Washington, D.C., for allegedly possessing a Molotov cocktail, police have said. Officers assigned to the cathedral's annual Red Mass spotted the man camping in a tent on the steps around 6 a.m. local time and recognized him as someone previously barred from the premises. When he refused to leave, he was taken into custody without incident. Police said they found vials of liquid and possible fireworks in his tent, prompting the bomb squad and the arson task force to investigate, Fox News has reported. The area was secured, and authorities said there was no ongoing threat to the public. The man faces charges including unlawful entry, making threats, and possession of a Molotov cocktail. Former NFL quarterback and Fox Sports broadcaster Mark Sanchez was arrested in Indianapolis, Indiana on Saturday following an incident in which he was stabbed and hospitalized, police have said. The Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department charged Sanchez, who is 38 years old, with 3 misdemeanors: battery with injury, unlawful entry of a motor vehicle, and public intoxication. The altercation occurred around 12:30 a.m. local time in the city's downtown wholesale district, and detectives said no other suspects are being sought. Sanchez remained hospitalized in stable condition, this according to Fox Sports, which confirmed he will not appear on Sunday's Colts-Raiders broadcast, ESPN has reported. The former New York Jets quarterback, who led the team to 2 AFC Championship appearances, received well wishes from his former team and fans across the league. Here's a look at the live weather radar from the National Weather Service, and now here's your national weather forecast for today. A strong cold front stretching from the Midwest to the southern plains is bringing heavy rain and flooding potential across parts of the Mid-South and the Ohio Valley. Moisture from the Gulf is fueling rainfall of 3 to 5 inches in some areas, with Kentucky facing the greatest risk of flash flooding through Tuesday. Showers and thunderstorms may also affect the central Gulf Coast and parts of New Mexico, with localized flash flooding possible, especially in urban areas and burn scars. Temperatures will be unseasonably warm east of the front, with highs in the 80s and potential record highs in New England, while cooler air dominates the Intermountain West and the Central High Plains, with highs 15 to 25 degrees below normal. Freeze watches, frost advisories, and concerns for freezing temperatures remain in effect across parts of the Intermountain West and the north-central U.S. through Tuesday morning. Negotiators have arrived in Cairo ahead of Monday talks focused on releasing hostages held by Hamas in Gaza and advancing a broader ceasefire, as Israeli strikes killed 63 people in the past 24 hours. The discussions will address the first phase of President Donald Trump's plan, which involves Hamas freeing 48 hostages in exchange for Palestinian prisoners held in Israel, with U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff and delegations from Israel and Hamas expected to participate. Trump said the plan could end fighting in Gaza immediately and urged all parties to, quote, move fast, while U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio cautioned that logistical details still need to be finalized. Under the proposal, Hamas would relinquish power to a U.S.-led authority, Israel would withdraw troops to a buffer zone, and humanitarian aid and reconstruction funds would flow into Gaza, The Guardian has reported. Despite the push for a ceasefire, Israeli strikes have continued, and the conflict has left over 67,000 dead and roughly 170,000 injured, with international bodies accusing Israel of committing genocide, which Israel denies. Chinese authorities have rescued 350 hikers from blizzard conditions on the Tibetan side of Mount Everest, with over 200 more at camps expected to be evacuated in groups, CCTV has reported. Earlier, Jimu News said roughly 1,000 climbers were trapped just below base camp, at about 16,076 feet. Rescue efforts have been slowed by heavy snow and strong winds, and tents have been damaged, though no fatalities have been confirmed. Local residents are assisting in clearing snow to improve access, while nearby Nepal has faced severe rain causing landslides and flash floods that killed dozens, the DW has reported. Everest, the world's tallest mountain at 8,848 meters, remains highly dangerous, having claimed hundreds of climbers' lives since its first ascent in 1953. Tens of thousands protested across Europe after Israel intercepted a flotilla of over 40 ships carrying aid to Gaza. In Spain, organizers said more than 300,000 people marched in Barcelona, while police estimated around 70,000, and demonstrations also took place in Madrid. Italy saw continued protest in Rome, with organizers claiming 1 million participants, part of a broader national movement supporting Palestinians after a one-day general strike on Friday. Smaller rallies occurred in Athens, with larger demonstrations in Greece on Sunday, which coincided with a pro-Israeli march, Euronews has reported. The protests reflect growing European anger over Israel's military campaign in Gaza and rising support for Palestinians, fueled by diplomatic tensions and recent humanitarian incidents. Explosions and heavy gunfire erupted near Somalia's presidential palace on Saturday as al-Shabaab militants attacked a prison which also houses the regional intelligence unit. The assault occurred just hours after the federal government lifted long-standing roadblocks in Mogadishu, intended to protect key sites. Residents reported smoke and gunfire, with the city's calm shattered after months of relative security. Al-Shabaab claimed responsibility, saying it released prisoners, while Somalia forces repelled the attack, killing several militants, the Associated Press has reported. Casualty figures remain unclear as security forces secured the area and ambulances responded, amid ongoing concerns about al-Shabaab's threat in central and southern Somalia. The United Kingdom's Home Office announced plans to give British police greater powers to control repeated protest, following the arrest of nearly 500 pro-Palestinian activists in central London on Saturday. Demonstrators had gathered to support the banned group Palestine Action, despite calls to cancel the protest after a recent synagogue attack in Manchester. The expanded powers would allow senior officers to relocate or even ban, quote, repeat protest based on their impact, with violators facing arrest and prosecution. Since Palestine Action was designated as a terrorist organization back in July, over 2,000 people have been arrested at similar demonstrations, many of them elderly or disabled, CNN has reported. Critics warned the measures threatened the freedom of speech, arguing that applying terrorism laws to protest groups sets a dangerous precedent for civil liberties. Hurricane Priscilla formed in the Pacific off southwestern Mexico, bringing heavy rain and gusty winds to coastal areas, the National Hurricane Center reported on Sunday. Priscilla's maximum sustained winds reached 75 miles per hour, and it was located about 285 miles south-southwest of Cabo Corrientes, moving north-northwest at 3 miles per hour. Coastal swells are creating life-threatening surf and rip currents, with flash flooding possible from up to 6 inches of rain in Guerrero, Michoacan, and Jalisco, the Associated Press has reported. Meanwhile, another Pacific storm, Octave, became a hurricane with 80-mile-per-hour winds, but poses no threat to land. A mosque in Peach Haven near Brighton, United Kingdom, was set on fire Saturday night in a suspected arson attack while 2 men in their 60s were still inside. The attackers reportedly tried to force the door open, then poured gasoline on the steps and set it ablaze, though no one was physically harmed. The fire damaged the mosque's entrance and a vehicle belonging to the mosque chairman, who relies on it for work as a taxi driver. Police are treating the incident as a hate crime, with an increased presence at places of worship across the country, CNN has reported. The attack follows a recent deadly assault outside a Manchester synagogue, highlighting rising concerns about Islamophobia and anti-Semitic violence in the United Kingdom. Georgia's prime minister accused the opposition of attempting to overthrow his government on Sunday, following his ruling Georgian Dream Party's claimed landslide win in local elections boycotted by major rivals. Tens of thousands had protested against the government's policies and what they see as a shift toward Moscow, with rallies ongoing since Georgia halted EU membership talks last November. The protests have faced multi-pronged crackdowns, including mass arrest, police violence, and laws restricting demonstrators, NGOs, and independent media, some modeled on Russian legislation. Riot police used water cannons and tear gas Saturday to disperse protesters who tried to breach the presidential palace gates, the Associated Press has reported. The Prime Minister characterized the opposition movement as foreign-backed attempts to destabilize the country, framing his planned crackdown as necessary to protect the government. A 60-year-old man was arrested in Sydney, Australia, after allegedly firing 50 to 100 bullets at random people and vehicles on Sunday evening, injuring 20 people. The shooting occurred in Cordon Park, a suburb of Inner West, with one victim in serious condition and others treated for shrapnel or shattered glass injuries. Police arrested the suspect in a unit above a business and seized 2 rifles. He was also treated for injuries sustained during his arrest. Authorities said the motive is unclear, with no known links to terrorism or gang activity, and an investigation is ongoing, CBS News has reported. Mass shootings are rare in Australia, which has had strict gun control laws since the 1996 Port Arthur massacre. Iran executed 6 inmates on Saturday accused of carrying out attacks in the southwest of the country on behalf of Israel, amid what activists say is the highest wave of executions in decades. The men were alleged to have killed police and security forces and carried out bombings around the provinces. Kurdish human rights group Hingal identified the men as Arab political prisoners detained during the 2019 protest, claiming they were tortured and forced into televised confessions. Separately, Iran executed another inmate accused of killing a Sunni cleric in 2009, CBS News has reported. Human rights groups report that over 1,000 people have been executed in Iran in 2025, raising concerns about the use of coerced confessions and closed-door trials. Today is October the 6th, 2025, and on this day in history, in the year 1889, Thomas Edison publicly demonstrated the first motion picture device, the kinetoscope. In the year 1926, baseball legend Babe Ruth hit a record 3 home runs in a single World Series game. And in the year 1973, the Yom Kippur War began as Egypt and Syria launched a surprise attack on Israel. Today is also National Noodle Day. Alright, it's 20 past the hour, and here's a quick stock market update for everybody. The NASDAQ is up 0.80%, gold is up 1.70%, oil is up 1.78%, Bitcoin is up 1.19%, the Dow Jones is down 0.12%, and the S&P 500 is up 0.29%. And now we'll go into our top national news stories for today. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker announced Sunday that President Donald Trump plans to deploy 400 Texas National Guard troops to Illinois, Oregon, and other states, escalating tensions over federal intervention. Pritzker said the federal government did not coordinate with him directly and called the move, quote, Trump's invasion, criticizing the deployment of out-of-state troops against local opposition. According to Pentagon memos, up to 400 Texas National Guard members could be deployed for 60 days alongside 300 Illinois National Guard members called up to protect federal buildings. The Department of Homeland Security previously requested 100 troops to safeguard ICE facilities in Illinois. Pritzker opposed the deployment, saying state and local authorities already ensured public safety and refusing to nationalize the Guard, calling it unconstitutional. Mayor Brandon Johnson of Chicago echoed concerns, warning the presence of Texas troops could escalate tensions, NBC5 Chicago has reported. President Trump has repeatedly claimed authority to send in the National Guard to cities like Chicago. A Texas mother shot her 4 children over the weekend, killing 2 and injuring the other 2, authorities have said. She faces 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, and is being held on a $14 million bond. The victims, ages 13 and 4, died in a vehicle, while the surviving children, ages 8 and 9, are in stable condition at a Houston area hospital. The mother called 911 after the shooting, and police recovered a weapon at the scene, the Associated Press has reported. The incident occurred about 45 miles south of Houston, and authorities are seeking justice for the children. 2 teenage girls were found dead atop a J train at Brooklyn's Marcy Avenue subway station on October the 4th, likely due to subway surfing, a dangerous trend of riding on top of moving trains. Police responded to a 911 call around 3:10 a.m. local time, and first responders pronounced the girls dead at the scene. Their identities are pending. The incident follows other recent subway surfing accidents, including a 14-year-old boy hospitalized the day before, and NYPD reports at least 3 deaths from the trend this year. City officials have launched campaigns and worked with social media platforms to remove videos promoting subway surfing, emphasizing its lethal risks, USA Today has reported. Subway surfing has caused multiple fatalities in recent years, prompting public awareness efforts and monitoring, including drone surveillance of subway lines. The White House has warned that mass layoffs of federal workers could begin if President Donald Trump decides negotiations with congressional Democrats over the partial government shutdown have stalled. As the shutdown entered its 5th day, White House economic advisor Kevin Hassett said layoffs would occur only if talks completely broke down. President Trump blamed Democrats for any potential job losses, calling them Democrat layoffs. He attended a U.S. Navy anniversary event in Norfolk, Virginia, amid the shutdown, calling it a display of naval aptitude and strength, Al Jazeera has reported. The impasse began on October the 1st after Senate Democrats rejected a short-term funding bill, and no significant negotiations have taken place since. A 35-year-old skydiving instructor died in Nashville, Tennessee after reportedly falling without a parachute during a random tandem jump, police have said. The instructor became separated from the tandem rig, while the other skydiver survived after being rescued from a tree with an open parachute. The incident occurred during a jump organized by Go Skydive Nashville, which expressed sorrow and said it is cooperating with investigators. Authorities found the instructor's body in a wooded area off Ashland City Highway, and the FAA is investigating, NBC News has reported. Skydiving safety data shows fatalities are rare, with only 9 deaths out of 3.88 million jumps in 2024, mostly due to human error. At the U.S. Navy's 250th anniversary ceremony, President Donald Trump promised that service members affected by the ongoing government shutdown would receive full back pay and a, quote, across-the-board raise once funding is restored. While active duty troops continue to serve without pay, many civilian Defense Department employees have been furloughed, and military family services have been reduced. Trump reiterated his support for a 3.8% pay raise, saying the previous administrations had failed to deliver such increases. The shutdown, now in its 5th day, has created financial strain for military families, as Congress remains deadlocked, Fox News has reported. President Trump blamed Democrats for the impasse, calling it a, quote, Democrat-induced shutdown, and vowing that the show must go on. Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson accused Democrats of being, quote, not serious about ending the ongoing government shutdown, now in its 5th day, while Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries blamed Republicans for the stalemate. Negotiations between the two parties have stalled, with both sides trading blame and no votes expected soon to reopen the government. Johnson claimed his chamber had done its part by passing a funding measure and accused Democrats of political posturing, while Jeffries countered that Republicans were spreading lies and following President Donald Trump's lead. The White House warned that mass layoffs of federal workers could begin if talks remain deadlocked, though officials have said that they still hope for a resolution, The Guardian has reported. Both sides insist that they are open to further discussions, but tensions continue to rise as the shutdown's effects spread across the country. 2 separate shootings at South Carolina State University during homecoming weekend left 1 woman dead and a man injured, authorities have said. The incidents occurred Saturday evening, prompting a campus-wide lockdown. State officials said the shootings do not appear to be connected and investigations are ongoing. The injured man still remains hospitalized, while the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division continues to gather information, USA Today has reported. U.S. Representative Nancy Mace expressed condolences to the victims' families and the university community, calling the events, quote, heartbreaking. A 60-year-old Missouri man was found dead at an Arkansas campsite after what authorities believe was a fatal bear attack. The man had recently sent his family photos of a bear near his campsite at Sam's Thorn Campground before going missing. Deputies discovered signs of a struggle, drag marks, and the man's body nearby with injuries consistent with a large animal mauling. While DNA tests are pending, officials say evidence strongly suggests a bear was responsible, NBC News has reported. The campground has temporarily closed as wildlife officials search for the bear, which will be euthanized and tested if it's captured. A New York wildlife rehabilitator, Samantha Boyd, 57 years old, was arrested after more than 200 wild and domestic animals were found living in filthy, overcrowded conditions in her Northport home, authorities have said. Boyd faces charges of animal cruelty and endangering the welfare of a 95-year-old woman discovered trapped amid debris inside the house. Her partner, who was 61 years old, was also charged with animal cruelty. Officials said the home was infested with pests and filled with waste, while animals were kept in unsanitary cages with contaminated food and water, NBC News has reported. All 206 animals were rescued, and prosecutors said many will soon be available for adoption as the investigation continues. Hey, real quick, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you can stay up to date on all of our news stories. And here is the last news block for the hour. Rite Aid, one of the largest U.S. pharmacy chains, announced Friday that it has permanently closed all of its remaining stores after years of financial decline. The company, which operated over 2,000 locations as recently as 2023, had struggled under mounting debt and filed for bankruptcy protection twice in less than 2 years. When it last filed in May of 2025, Rite Aid still had about 1,250 stores nationwide. Despite shedding $2 billion in debt through a 2023 restructuring, the company remained burdened by a $2.5 billion in obligations after emerging as a private firm in 2024, NBC News has reported. Rite Aid's website now only provides access to prescription and immunization records, as it thanks customers for 6 decades of support. OpenAI and chipmaker Advanced Micro Devices, also known as AMD, have announced a major partnership that could give OpenAI up to a 10% ownership stake in AMD. The deal involves OpenAI deploying 6 gigawatts of AMD's Instinct GPUs over several years, beginning with a 1 gigawatt rollout in late 2026. AMD granted OpenAI a warrant for up to 160 million shares, with vesting tied to deployment milestones and AMD's share price. The agreement, worth billions according to OpenAI, makes AMD a key strategic partner and one of the largest GPU suppliers for OpenAI's expanding AI infrastructure, CNBC has reported. AMD shares surged more than 25% in pre-market trading following the announcement, while Nvidia shares slipped 1% amid news of the deal. Nearly 4 million pounds of Foster Farms chicken corn dogs have been recalled after pieces of wood were found in the batter, the U.S. Department of Agriculture said on Saturday. The recall covers products made between July 30th of 2024 and August the 4th of 2025 and sold nationwide to retailers, institutions, and some government programs. At least 5 people were injured after eating the contaminated corn dogs, prompting complaints that led to the discovery. The recalled items bear the establishment number P-6137B, and consumers are urged to discard or return them, CBS News has reported. The recall follows a similar incident last month involving Hillshire Brands, which withdrew 58 million pounds of corn dog and sausage on a stick products over the very same issue. Kroger has recalled 2 pasta salad products, basil pesto bow tie salad and smoked mozzarella penne salad, due to potential listeria contamination, the FDA announced on Saturday. The salads, made by Nate's Fine Foods in Rossville, California, were sold across 1,860 Kroger stores in 29 states between August the 29th and October the 2nd. Listeria can cause serious infections, with symptoms including fever, headaches, stiff neck, muscle aches, and in severe cases, seizures. High-risk groups include pregnant people, newborns, seniors, and those with weakened immune systems, CBS News has reported. Customers are advised to avoid consuming the products and return them for a refund. Egypt has reopened the tomb of Pharaoh Amenhotep III in Luxor after more than 2 decades of Japanese-led restoration. The tomb, located in the Valley of the Kings, features a 36-meter passage, a main burial chamber, and 2 chambers for his wives, with wall paintings depicting the pharaoh alongside ancient Egyptian gods. Amenhotep III's mummy was moved a long time ago to the tomb of his grandfather, Amenhotep II, and it's now displayed at the National Museum of Egyptian Civilization. The reopening comes ahead of the Grand Egyptian Museum's official inauguration on November the 1st near the Giza Pyramids, the Associated Press has reported. Egypt aims to boost tourism, a key source of foreign currency, which suffered after the 2011 political unrest. A small asteroid named 2025 TF safely passed Earth on September the 30th at roughly 250 miles above the planet near the same altitude as the International Space Station. About the size of a couch, the asteroid measured 3 to 9 feet in diameter and was detected a few hours after its closest approach by the Catalina Sky Survey. NASA's Center for Near-Earth Object Studies calculated the flyby at approximately 262 miles above Antarctica, though exact measures have uncertainties. While smaller asteroids like 2025 TF are harder to detect, astronomers frequently track larger near-Earth objects to monitor potential hazards, Space.com has reported. Close passes of small, harmless asteroids are now spotted multiple times a week thanks to improving observation technology. Okay, everybody, that is our show for today. I hope you all have enjoyed it. I will see you all tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time for another episode of The News with BC. And until then, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.